Hey everybody, my name is Wes.
My name is Matt.
And today you're joining us for our MasterClass on events and attendance.
The events and attendance screen.
Oh man. Well, before we dive in, let us know in the chat. By the way, the chat is on the right-hand side of your screen if you don't see it. Go ahead, if you haven't already, jump on in there. Let us know you're here. But in the chat, on a scale of, what do you think, Matt? 1 to 10?
1 to 10.
Where would you rate yourself? Like 1 being you are new to ChurchTrac, just learning the things, and 10 being you're ready to take our job perhaps today. Where do you rate yourself in using the events and attendance screens at ChurchTrac? We have a lot to cover in today's masterclass. And I feel like not enough time to do it, Matt, because there's so much in here to cover.
Yeah, we'll definitely buckle up because we're going to be covering a lot of ground, showing you how to use the event screen to its fullest potential and get the most out of it. But don't hesitate to ask your questions throughout in the chat. But if we don't get to your question, don't worry. We will have a dedicated Q&A time at the end to cover any remaining questions that you have by the end of this, okay?
We definitely will. And before we dive into all those things, I see everyone, so 5 to 6, Lori says a 5, Lisa a 2. Don't see any 10s yet, which means we're going to have a lot of people to learn a lot.
Karen says 8.5 though.
Oh, that's a pretty
That's pretty
high.
good. That's pretty good.
Well, cool. Well, before we show that, quickly, if you have not yet checked out our YouTube channel, you could be watching this video on YouTube right now for all I know. Definitely check out our YouTube channel. We have a lot of videos that we post that show you how to use all the different features of ChurchTrac, even our previous live streams, such as this one that you're watching right now. And then also, Matt, our Facebook group.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm dropping links to the YouTube channel and the Facebook group in the chat right now. Just click on that link now. That way it'll open up another tab and that'll be waiting for you when you're done with this workshop. Our Facebook group is filled with thousands of people from around the world who are using ChurchTrac and would love to answer any questions that you have about the software or about anything else. I mean, we see people asking questions about non-ChurchTrac related stuff in that group all the time.
Yeah.
And people are jumping in and offering their advice and their insight and their experience. I love it.
It's a good place to be. All right, so got a lot to cover, and today it is all about the events and attendance screen. So really the goal is to help all of you get from here to here in terms of just your knowledge and know-how of the events and attendance screen. We're going to do like a quick overview, but then we're going to go dive into specific features of attendance tracking and creating event registrations and all that stuff. So before we go into the deep details, Matt, just a quick overview.
Yeah, let's give them the primer for what's in the events and attendance screen. So when you click on the events and attendance button in that menu on the left, or maybe it's on the top of your screen if you've customized your account that way, you'll immediately see the master calendar. This is where you'll see all the events that have been added to any of your calendars in ChurchTrac that at least you've been allowed to see. Maybe you don't have the user permissions to see everything, but this is everything that you're allowed to see. Next is the attendance and check-in tab. This is where all of the attendance events are listed, and you can click on one of those events. It'll open up the opportunity to record attendance for that event, whether you're using the check-in mode for the name tags, or you're just doing like a detailed attendance, or even just a head count. Yeah. You can do all of that in ChurchTrac with attendance. Next up is the reports tab. This is where all that attendance data will be collected, and you can then generate reports on that using whatever date range you need to just see what kind of attendance reports you're wanting to see. Just by clicking that attendance reports button on the left, there you go. We'll show you detailed attendance reports to say exactly who was there. We also give you absentee reports, which will list all the people who haven't been checked in for attendance within the 2 dates that you customize over on the left side of the screen.
And probably one of my favorite features is just being able to show absentees in the people screen.
Yes, oh my goodness, because I mean we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves and we're talking about the people screen now, but like you can do that and then have a list of all those absentees and then quickly send them all a text or an email. Yeah. I love that feature. Next is the Edit Calendars tab. This is where you can create multiple other calendars, not just have one calendar. And so you can create a calendar for every like ministry or team or department at your church, and then give those people access to that. And we'll go into more detail on that a little bit later. And then under the Options tab, this is where you can set up and customize some more details about your calendar, but also have like a feed to use to send events to other people or export it to another tool.
Which I think this is probably the best place for us to start in terms of getting into everything.
Yes.
Because the options, a lot of times we want to create some things here first before we dive into all the other stuff.
Yeah, especially the locations. This is what Wes is already showing us. We recommend that you add locations to this screen here. What that does is on the main calendar, whenever you're adding a new event, you have the option to list a location for that event, where that event's going to occur. We recommend you create or add a location for each of those like places where things occur at your church, whether it be the sanctuary, classrooms, office rooms, maybe a field outside. But also, like, if you're doing anything regarding tracking attendance, which we'll talk about today, you need a location for every single place where you're wanting to track attendance. Like if you have a small group program at your church.
Yeah, which I just created Ron's house on there.
Yeah, Ron's
just
house.
because.
Yeah, there you go. So Ron's, you need a location listed for every single small group or discipleship group or something like that for your church. That way when you add an event to the calendar and you want to track attendance for that event, you can also have the location of that event listed.
Yeah, it also helps too with scheduling, and you're not double booking people in different, the same location.
Yeah. Next up is the export option. This is where you can take one of these calendars, or all of them, frankly, and then export it to an ICS file, and then add it to another calendar program you're using, like Google Calendar or iCal or something like that. So you can pull everything out of ChurchTrac and dump it into another program if you or other people are using that together. The public calendar is where you'll actually find the HTML code that we've created for your calendar. That first option, that's a hyperlink or a link to the calendar. So you can use that for like a button on your website. And when people press that, it takes them to a page that shows them the events on that master calendar. Or at least the events that you've made public.
And so I just pasted that link in there real quick just so you could see the calendar. So any public events that I have are going to show up right there.
Easy. And then below that, we also give you the code to add the calendar to a website. That's the iframe. So if you're managing your website, you can just copy that and paste it in. We also give you the style code, which sets like the width and the height so that you can make sure it fits the screen properly. And then below that is the list view for the calendar. So if you don't want it as like an actual calendar view, you just want a list of all those upcoming events, that's what that link is for.
And if I were to paste that in real quick just to show it, then it would have, if I had
instead of a grid of dates, it's just a list.
Yeah, which most churches prefer this. I actually prefer this just because it's easier to see at a glance all this.
I agree too. It kind of cuts to the quick. Rather than seeing a bunch of empty spaces, you just see the events themselves, and that's it. And then next up is the calendar feed. This is really handy because if you need to like take a calendar and give it to somebody and have those events added to their personal calendar, you just use this link and it prompts them to add it to their personal like Google Calendar to stay up to date on things.
Yeah, and it's great for like an iPhone or an Android where they go straight to that and it instantly injects that into their calendar for their phone.
I find that really handy for like the pastor of the church that my wife and I were serving at previously, since it's a mobile church. Like he's not working there. He himself is very mobile in the work that he does and his part-time job as well because he's a bivocational pastor. So having it on his personal calendar so he's not having to constantly log into the software from his phone, it just makes it easier for him.
Yeah, it really does doing that.
Yeah.
Now, going beyond, because that's a big part of setup, is just going through those options, making sure you have the locations, all that good stuff.
It's just laying the groundwork.
And then the last part of laying that groundwork, I would say, is creating your calendars. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a couple rules of thought, or schools of thought, I guess you should say.
Rules of thumb, schools of thought. Don't blend your metaphors.
So I recommend creating a different calendar for every ministry. And in ChurchTrac, you can do that, and you can have like your master calendar. And the other thing too is you can have who can view events and also who can edit events.
Yeah.
This is really handy, being able to do that.
Yeah, so you can keep people up to date by letting them view stuff, but like not change anything or accidentally delete something or make a change to an event. So you can give people access to what they need and give people permission to do what they need to do without having too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, and one big thing we get asked all the time, Google Calendar. So you can actually, when you go to add a calendar, you have two options. You can add a calendar in ChurchTrac, your own database calendar, or you can actually add a Google Calendar, and then you just grab your Google Calendar ID, you put that in there, and then it's a read-only version of your Google Calendar into ChurchTrac. So that way you can pull your Google Calendar on there. So many churches already use Google Calendar, so it's kind of a nice
Yes,
fit.
this is great for, I think, when you're just getting started, because we recommend you transition away from using lots of other programs to do what you're doing for ministry and do everything on one platform with, ChurchTrac. But at least getting started, you probably have a Google Calendar.
Yeah.
And you probably have it full of your events. And if you're just getting into ChurchTrac, you can just dump it in and at least have them there to get started.
All right. Well, we've covered like all the initial setup things now. So now let's talk about attendance tracking, because this is a really big thing. Let us know in the chat. Are you planning on utilizing ChurchTrac for attendance tracking? So tracking attendance maybe for your main worship service. Maybe, Matt, they're wanting to track attendance for just small groups, maybe Sunday school classes, things like that.
Yeah.
So let us know if you're planning on utilizing the attendance tracking features of ChurchTrac. So let's cover this real quick. This is kind of your crash course of really how to do that. So first, it starts with having your tags created. And that's such a key thing. I encourage you, if you're not familiar with tags, go ahead, check out some of our articles on tags. We have some great videos that walk you through the process. But basically, a tag is like a label that you can assign to your people, and you'll use that label for all your different attendance events. So just to show you really quickly on my people screen here, I've got a bunch of tags I've created, and I've got these different discipleship groups. And so in this particular circumstance, I have adults 1, adults 2, adults 3. And so I've assigned people to those different tags to be able to track attendance for those different groups. And so that's really like step one of being able to track attendance in ChurchTrac, is first creating your tags and everything, assigning those groups. I highly recommend bulk edit. And just assigning all your people to a specific tag very quickly using our bulk edit feature. And just for those of you who may not be as familiar with that, you can easily just start checking off a bunch of names. And then let's say I want to assign all these names to a specific tag. I select that actions button, and then I can select bulk edit check names. And then from here, I can go ahead and add a tag, and then assign whatever tag it is that I want to assign.
Yep.
Really great. It makes it super fast to put all your people into the specific groups you want them in. So once you've done that, well, it's time to create your events. And so I'll go back to my events and attendance screen, and I will go to the attendance check-in tab here, and I'm going to go ahead and create an event here. And let's do one event first, and let's call it Ron's discipleship group, or just Ron's group.
Yeah.
So Ron's group, and we'll just say it's happening today for just simplicity's sake. And I could put it on a specific calendar. I'm just going to put it on our master calendar for now, just for this little demonstration. And so I've created this, and then the next step for me is to select the tags. Now, one thing I really like is being able to just copy tags from a recent event. Because a lot of people, they get into a rhythm of adding all their events. And so just being able to copy tags from another event, it just saves you a lot of time.
Yeah, rather than having to, especially if you're bringing in like a bunch of different tags together, a family of tags, instead of clicking through all of those different options, just with one click of the mouse, you're done. You move on to the next step.
Yeah, so you can easily do that if you're wanting to pull from a previous event. Now, in this situation, I want to show selecting tags real fast, just to show. So I will go to that discipleship group, and I just want to assign that one tag to it, because that's the attendance for that specific group. And I'll apply that, and then it's done. And so now I am ready to track attendance for this group. Now, ChurchTrac gives you a lot of different ways to track attendance. And there's a few ways. I'll just go quickly show. So I can select this event real quick. Now, the first thing, if I just want a number count, well, I can always just type in a number of however many people were there. And so I can just say, hey, there were 12 people there, and leave it at that. This is really great for when you have events like worship attendance where you just want a number count. And in those situations, you don't even need to add people to a tag. You can have a tag with no people. Just make sure attendance tracking is enabled for it, and then just assign number counts. And you won't even have to sift through a list of people to get down there. It'll just be there. Or you can just start tracking attendance by selecting the people here for that attendance event. And there you go. And then the other option too is you can go to live mode, which, Matt, I would say this is probably the most popular I see in like youth ministry, stuff like that.
Yeah. Like, because you don't necessarily need name tags for youth ministry, right?
No.
Like maybe at the beginning of the season or something, but otherwise no. But it's great because you just pull up a list of all the names of all the kids on one screen, and then they can just tap. They can find their own name and tap on it to check themselves in for attendance.
Yeah,
easy
so
peasy.
It really
so you're kind of outsourcing the work of attendance tracking to the kids.
Yes, and I mean, obviously, you could have that one random kid that maybe wants to uncheck people's attendance and stuff. So it really just comes down to how much you trust your kids for that, or just whoever's tracking. But I see a lot of youth ministries or similar ministries where they'll have like a volunteer that mans the station, and they'll just quickly select who's there and who's not there. So you can track attendance that way as well. Now, another thing that I think is super important to bring attention to is just the fact that you can print out a roll sheet too. Because at the end of the day, you let me know in the chat, sometimes it's easier to just have a sheet of like your names of your people.
An old school roll sheet.
And just check them off. And maybe you want to print out a roll sheet for like multiple weeks at a time for like a Sunday school class or something like that. Well, you can easily do that. So going back to this particular group, I can go to the roll sheet, and then I can go ahead and start printing out a dated roll sheet. I can print out a multi-date roll sheet, and I can even check off what information I want to have included with that. And then just to show you right there, you even have even more options here of having different labels and stuff. So
nice.
There's a lot going on in here. We don't have time to cover it all but just so you can see, you have a lot of options for many different ways of tracking attendance. And then we even have check-in mode, which we'll talk more about another time. Because check-in is kind of its own thing.
Yes, we're actually working on some updates right now to the check-in process, and we'll be launching those in the coming weeks and months, and we'll do a live stream when that's ready. Yeah. So we're waiting for that before we do one of these for that.
But I think probably the most powerful way when it comes to this particular circumstance with Ron's discipleship group tracking attendance is doing this in Church Connect. Just using our church's app to track attendance. And so I want to show what that looks like real quick. So I'm going to pull up my cell phone. I've already got the event created in ChurchTrac, and I can even see that if I go to my calendar, you can see Ron's group's on there right now.
Yep.
And so let's say I'm Ron, I'm the small group leader, and I want to go ahead and track attendance for my small group, and I want to do it for my app. Well, I can sign in. And so I'll sign in real quick as Ron, continue. So now I'm signed in as a small group leader, and so for me to track attendance, all I have to do is select the menu in the top left of Church Connect, and that menu gives me access to a lot of different things, one of which is the upcoming events. And so when I select the upcoming events, from here, I can see Ron's group, it's happening today. I can select that enter attendance, and there you can already see the people that were already tracked as there that we just did a minute ago. So it's like in real time.
It's already fed into this too,
It's already fed into this. It all shares the same thing. And so like obviously in Ron's case, this would be brand new. I would have nobody here, and then I would just start tracking attendance as a small group leader and say, hey, all these people were here, got them all, and then I can just hit close and I'm done.
Nice.
So like in 10 seconds, a small group leader can track attendance.
Yeah, super easy. And like I know that having the roll sheet is super handy just because then you can have people that aren't going to use the phone to track attendance, that they're covered. But then they have to turn in that roll sheet to you.
Yeah.
And then you have to sit down and retroactively plug in that data so that you have it all in one place, not just on paper. This is great because you can outsource some of the work of attendance tracking to your small group leaders, Sunday school group leaders, children's ministry, yada, yada. I've even talked to church leaders that like their elders track attendance for Sunday morning service.
Yeah.
They're just in the back of the room. Maybe they even have like a certain group of people that they're assigned to track and check in for attendance, and they just log into their account and tap, 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 and they're done.
Yeah.
And all of Sunday morning service is tracked for attendance. And it's not just on one person's shoulders to do all of that.
Yeah, and one thing I want to point out, when you're trying to utilize that attendance tracking feature in Church Connect, whenever you want to enable that for your leaders to be able to do that in the Church Connect app, one thing you do need to do for that person is on that person's profile, so I'll search Ron real fast in my database here, and so there's Ronald. On their profile itself, go to their tags tab. They need to obviously be in that discipleship group or group that they're tracking attendance for. But the other thing too is you need to enable attendance tracking for that tag for that person. I know it kind of sounds like a mouthful, but it makes sense when you look at it visually that all I do is select the tag and then I just select allow this person to enter attendance. And so you can have multiple small group leaders have the ability to track attendance. So that way if one's not there one night but another one is, stuff like that, just makes life easier. I love this, and it's like we said, it really just comes back down to what works best for your ministry. Because I've been in ministries that I've served at where it really is just so much easier to have a roll sheet, and then they just hand that to the church admin at the end of every month.
Yeah.
But then I've been a part of other ministries where we have gone exclusively with the app and done attendance that way, and it's made the admin's job so much easier because they really don't have to do anything. Like they just create the attendance event, and their small group leaders are
Do all the
naturally,
rest. Yeah.
they're tracking the attendance.
Jennifer
form.
in the chat says that they use a roll sheet per month. My pastor loves the paper format. Yeah. That's why we have that, because there are lots of churches like yours, Jennifer, where that format is just what makes the most sense and what they're most familiar with. So there's no reason to fix what isn't broke.
And I see Dale, you're a case in point of, needing attendance tracking because your church doesn't have internet. That's why you would use a roll sheet. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I love about technology is even
paper is offline.
Yeah, paper is still technology and it's offline. It's just a different type of technology. Use roll sheets in that situation. Now, we could talk so much more about attendance tracking and everything, but I think we gave like the good primer of, hey, number one, you need to create your tags for attendance. So just like to rewind, when you want to track attendance in ChurchTrac, first make sure you create those tags for your different groups. And then FYI, when you want to track attendance, you need to make sure you enable attendance tracking and check in for that tag and assign your people to that. And then you can go ahead, start creating your different attendance events on that attendance and check-in tab. And then from there, whether you're tracking attendance with a roll sheet or entering it in ChurchTrac manually or live mode, whatever it is, do that way, or check-in, which I always opt for check-in because it's awesome.
It is awesome.
Check-in. Sorry, using the attendance tracking and Church Connect. Check-in, Church Connect, your brain gets twisted when you talk about them so quickly. All right, registrations is next.
Yes, and I think this is crucial, especially because there's a few people that have in the chat mentioned like VBS. Mm-hmm. Someone else, I can't remember who it was, and I apologize for already forgetting, but somebody mentioned that you're using registrations already. This is really, really powerful.
Yeah.
The ability to collect ahead of time all of people's information ahead of an event, so that you can be better prepared for what you need to do for that event.
Yeah, and it's nice because it's all built into ChurchTrac. I've worked with so many ministries, Matt, where they're using like a hodgepodge of like, well, I've got this Google form I created, which then puts everything into a Google Sheet. And then I take that Google Sheet and then I put all that information into my church software, so then I can actually track attendance this way. But then I have to move it over here when I want to do a check-in event and track attendance. It's nice having it all in one place.
All under one roof.
And that way your people can easily navigate to it and then be able to register for events. So that's what we're going to cover next. Now, we don't have time to cover like every scenario. I know VBS is a big one, which we're going to cover VBS, and we're also going to cover like an example of like a potluck. So I think that's a good one because it just encompasses what so many churches want to do, like very basic events, and then also a lot of times they want to do advanced events like VBS.
Yes.
And so we'll do those types. So let's start, Matt. How about this? Let's do a potluck for our church. So I'm going to go to that calendar here, and here I can actually do this all on the calendar screen. And I already created a potluck example, but I want to create another one from scratch just so we can really show it. So we'll say we'll have a potluck on the 25th. And so I can go ahead, I can name this event. And now I could say this is an all-day event, but man, that'd be a long potluck. That would be a potluck where we need to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner if this is happening all day. So we're going to say that this particular potluck, it starts at, how about 11 a.m. and it's going to go till 4 p.m. So it's kind of a long potluck, but also reasonable. And then location. And again, this is why it's so important to have those locations like you were saying earlier, Matt.
Yep.
Just having that set up ahead of time so that way you're not having to recreate locations. And I could say this is going to happen in the front field of our church. Or maybe I can say the front annex, whatever it is, whatever location you've created at your church, you can do that. And then I can put it on the master calendar, or I could put it in a specific calendar. I'll put this on our master calendar because this is an event I also want to publish to our public calendar. And so that way it's viewable by everybody. And now from here, I can go ahead and set up registrations for this event. So I'll just select that set up registrations for this event button. And now I'm ready to start creating it. So I'm going to walk you through kind of just what all this means. So step one, who can register for this event? Most of the time, we just want everyone to be able to register. It doesn't matter if they are going to our church, because a lot of times at churches, we are doing events for our community, and we want to bring them there because we want them to hear the gospel at some point. But you can have events just for your Connect users, aka your church people. So if this is an event in which you're wanting people to register and it's only for church members, I would select that. But most of the time, churches end up using the anyone can register method. And then the next step is, okay, what type of registration method are we looking at here? And we have three options. The first being a single, and this is like the most basic as it gets, where the person registering is the attendee, and you don't need to know how many additional people are coming with them. It's just that person, that's it. The next is count. Count is where a person can register themselves an additional number of people. This is great for a potluck, because I really just need to know, hey, are you coming, and are you bringing other people?
How many people are coming, yeah.
Yeah.
You so like count to know how many hot dogs and hamburgers you need to cook.
Yes. And so like, hey, you're coming, and how many kids you bring in, whatever. And then the detail, this is for those events like VBS. This is for those events like your summer camp, where you need to know the information of every single
person.
Yes. It's like we're finishing each other's sentences.
Sandwiches?
See, I was going to say sandwiches, but I don't know if anybody else out there would get that joke. All right, enable registration for this event. Sorry, count, because I want to do a potluck. Enable. So now from here, I can go ahead and start setting up this event. And here is the first thing is attendee types and cost. So I want to bring special attention to this. You can have different types of attendee types of an event. You can have asking for payment, asking for donation. We actually give you the ability to do these things in ChurchTrac. Now, this is a potluck. I don't want to get too crazy here. I want to keep it simple. So I'm not going to have any attendee types or costs, because it's potluck. I don't care who's coming. I just want to know how many people are coming, and I want to know what you're bringing. So that brings me to our next thing, form questions. So we have the ability, and I guess I clicked too hard, and my computer is like, why are you clicking so hard? And it keeps opening a window on my other screen.
He says, you're abusing me. What are you doing this for?
So right from here, I can start building out this form card of questions. Let me know in the chat, like, what are some questions you like asking people whenever they are registering for an event at your church? And more specifically, maybe like a potluck. Like, do you ask for people's phone number? Are you asking for people address perhaps? Here's what's really cool that I love about our software is our team has really tried to do a lot of the legwork for you. And so when I go to add a question, I can create my own, and my goodness, we have so many different options to pick from, which is really cool. Or I can use these pre-built ones, which our team has actually pre-built some of these common questions that people ask on different forms for their events, for their registrations. And then you can also import from a previous event, which is really handy. So if you have other events that you are trying to reuse a lot of questions because you spent a lot of time making forms, you can reuse those, which is nice. I'm going to use pre-built because I like to work smart, not hard. So it's already by default going to ask for a person's email address and name, but I want to go ahead, I want to ask for phone number perhaps, and then I want to ask, oh yes, the potluck sign up.
Yeah, and then maybe allergies, medical info. That may be relevant for like a food-based event.
Probably, yeah. So I could do that. So from here, and so here we go. Add those selected fields. It automatically adds it. Boom. And I can choose whether or not I want to require it. And I will say your phone number is required. Allergies and medical info, I'm just going to move down below that so you can actually move your questions down, which is nice. And I'm not going to require that one, but I will require this, because this is the most important question of the potluck.
Yes. How much mac and cheese can we have at this event? That's all we need to know.
And this is kind of a joke that our developers put in here about mac and cheese being its own category of food. Obviously, if your church is outside of the Southeast United States, you're probably not going to have mac and cheese as its own category. But if you are, you probably will. I don't know. Let me know in the chat. Is mac and cheese like its own category for your church?
I don't go to a church unless they have a whole table devoted to mac and cheese at their potlucks.
So yeah, different styles of mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, casseroles, oven baked, stove top, box mix, homemade. I eat them all.
Goodness. And I love the fact that I can put limits. Obviously, I never put a limit on meat, but for the sake of this thing, we'll say that we'd limit to 8. And by the way, I can add a description, which is nice, and say, please bring a serving size for 8 people. I think that's a good, fair assessment there. 8 people. So mac and cheese, we'll say we only need 6 mac and cheeses. And then veggies, I'm going to rename this. We're going to call this sides. And because it doesn't need to be vegetables, it can be anything really. And we'll say 4 sides. Desserts, we'll say 5 desserts. And then other,
Those are rookie numbers, man. You gotta pump those numbers up.
Well, this is a smaller church. This isn't like some massive church, So actually, you know what? You're right. I need to up that. That's too small.
Yeah.
So we'll do 12 meats.
Yeah.
There we go.
Dessert. Bringing a dessert is your buy-in to the potluck.
Oh man, we're having too much fun. This is all right. So I think we got the idea across. This is how you build your questions and everything into your forms, and then other things you have like an event cap, so you can cap out how many attendees go to this event. And all that good stuff. Now you have an event URL and QR code, so you can share this URL and QR code with people. You can attach an image to this event. You can have a registration deadline for the event. You can have a specific user get notified. And because, Matt, you were giving me such a hard time earlier, I'm going to say you have to get all the emails of everybody that registers for this thing.
Man.
And I'm also going to
forward them to you.
And I'll also send a confirmation email to everybody that registers, so that's cool. Now, one thing I know it's a little outside of the events and registration, but I would recommend on Church Connect, when you have events that you want to get people to sign up for and everything, go ahead, create a card in Church Connect. So I'm going to add a quick card here, and don't worry, we have videos that like reinforce what I'm doing right now because I'm doing this so fast, but I'm going to just quickly do a registration card, and we're going to say that this is going to be from this event. So this potluck I just created, there you go. That way people can click to register.
And it adds it directly to the app right there on that main screen so that it prompts more people to sign up. It just makes it easier for people to find it.
Yes, and so then just show, like I want to show what this looks like in a phone now. We just created this event and everything. I even added it to Church Connect. Let me go ahead, I'm going to pull out the handy dandy phone here, and I'm going to refresh my screen because it's probably not going to be there on my phone. And obviously you want to put those cards up higher. So I'm logged in as a church member right now, but if I scroll down to the bottom, because that's where that card is, there it is, potluck. So I click the register, and there we go, register for this event. I can select register. Hi Ronald, you're registering for the potluck. Sweet. And so I can say how many people are going to be attending. You know what's funny is we have a limit of 12, and I guess that's because our developers thought that's the maximum amount of kids that a family would probably have.
Yeah.
But I met someone who has more kids than that too.
I have. Only one family. It's very rare, but I have known 13, 14, 15 kids.
Yeah. So if you do have families like that at your church, it's a possibility. They'll just have to do 2 registrations in that situation.
They're probably used to that by now, though.
So then I can put my number if I want. And again, I'm just going to make stuff up, 999, 999, 9999, whatever. And then mac and cheese, meat, whatever. I'll select meat. Allergies. I'm just going to say weak-minded people. That's my allergy.
Ellen earlier in the chat suggested that we need to have like a mac and cheese bar with side toppings.
Oh, man.
Brilliant. Like bacon bits, panko breadcrumbs and everything. Oh, that sounds so good.
You know what?
Shallots.
Send Matt an email, matt@churchtrac.com, and let's brainstorm together like the most ultimate way to do a mac and cheese bar.
Oh, that sounds so good.
All right, so I just registered for that event, everybody. It's done. So like that's how quick it is to register for events and everything. And you can see I'm registered there in Church Connect as church member. All right, so that's 101 of creating an event for your registrations. But let's take things to the next level because that's what we like to do. And that's why we're here.
We've already had people ask about VBS in the chat, so they're already thinking this.
Well, and let's just ask the question. When is your VBS? But let us know in the chat, like when is your VBS? Is it like next week? Is it like in a month? I know a lot of churches like June is like the month of VBS.
Yeah, well, it's like right after school. But it's also, like, a lot of parents are taking their families on vacation immediately after school, but not necessarily deep into summer. And then others are waiting till July or August to go before school starts again. So June is kind of this weird but perfect middle month between all the busyness of summer vacations.
Now, you're probably going to laugh at me when I say this, but I'm used to my VBSs growing up being in July. And the reason why is because my church was on a budget and we just couldn't afford all the VBS stuff. So we would wait for the other churches to be done with their VBSs so we could get all of their stuff for free and put it on the stage and everything. And so ours was always in July.
You got to do what you got to do, man.
That's right. When you're doing church on a budget. All right. So end of July. Yeah. So Nikki, you're my people, you know. Debbie, June 24th. Yeah. So let's go ahead. Enough talk, enough chit chat. We got to show you how to do this.
Let's do this.
So events, attendance. We're going to go ahead and create the event. And spoiler alert, I already created one to show you later. But anyways, we're going to create it from scratch just to show you. Now we're going to say Monday, May 27th, even though it's not that soon, but we're just going to say it for fun. And we're going to call this VBS. And this is an all-day event. I can choose that. I can pick a start date, pick an end date. So I'm going to say it's happening the 27th through the 31st of May. And then we'll just say location. I'll just say worship building. Publish the event to the public calendar. Yes. And now I'm ready to set up registration for this event. All right, hold on to your hats, everybody. So the first thing, anyone, that's who we want to register, because the fact is we're going to have a lot of people that don't even attend our church that are going to register for this.
Yeah, so we don't want just our church registered.
No.
We want as many people as possible to sign up for this.
So this is detailed. And again, this is a very similar thing that you're probably going to be doing for like summer camps too, for youth camp registration, stuff like that. Now, attendee types and costs. Let's go ahead. We can create a couple different attendee types. I can have a cost, VBS. I'm not going to have a cost on this one. I'm going to say the first one, attendee type, is a parent. And then the next attendee type is child. There we go. That's it. Just close. Like I'm done. That's crazy how fast that is. And then form questions. So these are the questions I want to ask. Now, by default, if the person's not logged in, the system is going to ask for their name and their email. But I can go ahead and take it to the next level. And I'm going to go ahead and just start adding some quick questions. And I am going to say, since it's already asking for first name and last name, I'm not going to add that. But then I'm going to add maybe like pre-built fields, love it, emergency contact info, allergies, medical. We don't need the potluck sign up. That's funny that we've got that there though. And then I could do age group if I wanted to do that. Some churches like to use that for their sign up, so you could do that. And then I can add those fields. There you go. And then obviously like I can require them or not require them, whatever. So I'll go ahead and I'll just require them just for fun. And so emergency contact, I can even say, I could even like give in more detail, phone number and contact. We'll just leave it at that. You get the idea. You can make this however you want. All right, so hit close. All right, got that. And again, just to reinforce, you can add an event description. You can have an image for your event. Highly recommend putting an image on there for your VBS and stuff to make it, just makes it look good.
Yeah.
And then a registration deadline, you definitely want to have something like that going on probably.
That way you don't get people signing up way past the time you're able to take in signups.
Yeah, because by then it's not really a sign up, it's just registration or something if you're switching to more of attendance tracking mode too.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
All right. Now again, view URL, QR code. So that's how you can share that event with your people and everything. Or you can simply just add this event to your Church Connect. And so I want to do that again because I just want to show like how easy this is. So like back to Church Connect, navigating to that, I add a card here, add my card. It's a registration card. I add this card. And then from here, I can select the event. And I actually already had created an event. There we go. So VBS that I have there. There we go. Click close. And that's it. And so now whenever I go, I'm switching gears again. So back to the phone because I want to show what this looks like on the phone for your people. So when I go to register for the event, now I got to scroll down because I added this one again to the bottom there. VBS, click to register. All right, register for this event. Now I'm already logged in, which is nice. So it's gonna, I don't think it's gonna ask for my email. I know it still will for this. Oh, that's why, because detailed. They're detailed event here. So I can just put in my name here and do all that. enter all of that information, hit continue, and then I can continue adding the additional people for this event. Now, that's it. That's how you do VBS in ChurchTrac for registrations.
Super easy.
Now, that's the whole process of creating it. That's the whole process of having your people register. But there's another important process. You know what that is?
What is that?
It's just being able to track all your registrants, man.
Yeah, and that's actually something that Luke kind of hinted at. I don't know if this is exactly what you were asking, Luke. Luke asked, can you see what others have registered for to make sure that there's not like doubles of something?
Yeah.
Luke, you can't necessarily see what others have signed up for, as if you're a registrant, like a member signing up, can't see what other members have signed up for. But I was just typing this up. I'll go ahead and answer this. Wes demonstrated earlier setting limits for how many people can choose to bring a certain item. So like if you have like only 5 people can bring mac and cheese, well, the first 5 people that choose that, well, that's no longer an option. So that way you kind of make sure that nobody brings too much of one thing.
Yeah.
But he's also about to show you now in the registrations process, if you're the ChurchTrac user, I mean, you are, of course, Luke, a ChurchTrac user, but you and anyone else using ChurchTrac can actually go to see who has signed up for an event and what they filled out in that form.
Yeah.
So as a user, you can see this.
And so I've already created this event, my VBS registration earlier today, just for this purpose of showing it. But when I go to click that event, I can go to my view registrants. And so when I select that, that's going to show everybody that's registered for this event. And I can actually select on each individual person and see more information about them. So like attendee type, child, allergies, stuff like that, birthday. And then I can see their status of registration. And then the memo, it actually, this is so cool, it automatically says who they were registered by. So if you're a parent registering them in this detailed method that we just showed off, it's going to say who registered them and stuff, which is really nice. And so you have the ability to see all that. And then you have this actions button, and this gives you a lot of stuff that you can do. You can add names to an event. Like, so if you have a situation arise where maybe a kid shows up right there and you've already got this pulled up, like you can quickly just add their name to it if you want to do that. Now you can also send an email to your registrants. Love this, because a lot of times we want to send reminders to people about things, or if you want to go ahead and just add in all of your parents, you can actually, in your event, that you can have people just added to an event and then send that email to them to have them register, or you could just send a regular mass email. I mean, there's a lot of ways to do it in the software, actually. It's kind of wild. So that's the thing. Print event registration report, so I can print out a quick report that has everybody that's registered, what they've registered for. Really great to be able to print all that out. Most churches, I think, are going to end up probably using the ability to export that event report, just because when you can export it on an Excel sheet, quickly have that Excel sheet printed out, and then you can even customize this Excel sheet, which a lot of churches I see, they'll do that. Well, they'll generate that Excel sheet, which only takes a couple seconds in ChurchTrac, then they'll get that Excel sheet, and then they'll just quickly take off a couple things, and then within 60 seconds they have an Excel sheet that they can print out and they're ready to go to check people off, because that kind of takes us to the next thing. So we have these events, we do these registrations. There's a few different ways you can handle like the whole process of people when they show up for things like VBS and doing the attendance and everything. And so the first way is obviously you can, once you get all those attendees and everything registered, you can export them out to that Excel sheet and do it that way. But the better way is to simply just take people and you select a person and you can add that name to your church database.
Nice. I literally just mentioned that in a reply in the chat. They just have their email address as the username, m7star@firstalma.com. Asks, like, does people signing up do they then get added to the people screen? No, because everything is based in ChurchTrac on how many people you have in the database. When I say everything, I mean like pricing is based on how many people you have in the people screen. Have someone registering on the registration process does not add them to the people screen. So you're not going to get bumped into a higher price tier just because you wanted to do a VBS or a youth camp or something like that, or have a potluck. But you can add them to the people screen from here if that's just something you need to do.
Now, this is a great opportunity for us to have a conversation about this.
Okay.
Because I know a lot of church leaders, when they're wanting to be cognizant of how much they're spending, not only on the events itself and everything, but ChurchTrac.
Yeah.
And whenever you move up to another tier in ChurchTrac, it is more money to do that. Here's the cool thing though, is like churches, they can move up to that higher tier for that month-long period if they're paying month to month, and then they can easily move back down again whenever they are done with that event and they've archived a lot of people, because that's a great feature, being able to archive individuals who may not actually go to the church or whatever.
Yeah, the church that my wife and I were serving at, we did that with like an Easter egg hunt. We gathered all their information, went ahead and added them to the people screen, sent them follow-up messages afterwards to invite them to the next, inviting them back to church next Sunday, and then whoever didn't show up that next Sunday, we archived them.
Yeah. And so if you're out there and you're like, we don't want to add people to ChurchTrac because that's going to cost us more money, I think you have way more to gain by actually adding people and going up a name tier, because then it makes it easier to do attendance for that event.
Track attendance, send messages.
Which is actually a key thing too that we didn't even hit on. We got to hit on. Like when it comes to doing events like VBS and stuff, people are entrusting us with their children.
Yep.
We need to have a secure way of how we keep kids safe, check them in, check them out. Obviously, the first choice is using ChurchTrac because it's already built into it, and so utilizing that feature. But again, we give you options. That's why you can easily generate like an Excel sheet. So if you want just to have like a list of all the kids that have been registered, and then you can do it that way.
Essentially, you can check them in and out manually that way. Otherwise, you can add them. You can add all the kids to the people screen. That way, you can do the child check-in, which produces the name tags and the emergency contact info and special instructions and allergy information.
Yes.
That way, the parents, especially parents that are new, like don't attend your church, they'll see that and just be reassured that these people are on top of their game and that my kid is safe in their hands.
Yeah. And what's so cool, like this is the last thing we'll show, because I want to just answer some questions too, since we've covered so much. But when you have everybody that's registered and everything, and I go to that actions button, I can actually go and show those people on the people screen. And so by showing names on the people screen, and I can select show all or register, whatever. So then when I select that, that's going to show all the names of the people that I've already added.
Okay.
And so like, let's say you've got like, 50 kids that you've added in here. Well, then I can just go ahead, select the actions button, check all. So like, let's say that was 50 kids, 100 kids, whatever. And then I can go and then bulk edit those names, add a tag. So like in this case, I have a tag in which I've called VBS because I want to use this tag for tracking attendance and check-in.
So easy.
And so then I apply that, and then I'm done. Like I've already created that tag, I've assigned all those kids to that tag, and then within 60 seconds, I've already created another event and created a check-in, and now I'm printing out labels and stuff for kids. I mean,
yeah. And Sarah asked in the chat, this is a good question. Do you need a different event for each day, or can you check in every day on the same event if the event is multiple days? The answer is you do need a separate event on each day.
Yeah.
You can create an event in ChurchTrac, like one big event, like the VBS event Wes was showing you, to do registrations. But if you want to track attendance each day of that event, then you do need a separate attendance event each day.
And that's just to go,
Yeah, Wes is kind of showing you on the screen now. He has the VBS registration, that bar across the I can't say it, the calendar. I can't want to say the map. I don't know why. And then VBS day one, that's the event he created to track attendance for the first day of VBS, and he would do that for the next 4 days.
Yeah, because let's be honest, like not every kid's going to be there every single day. As much as we'd love them to be, like you're going to have some kids that don't show up until like the third day of VBS. Then you have some kids that are there for the first two, but they're not there for the rest because they went out of town. And so you always want to track attendance with VBS or any event like that on a daily basis because you're not going to have the same people there every day. Yeah. And I'm not even gonna, there's just so much we could talk about that, and we have to have a cutoff.
So many little rabbit trails.
Yeah, there really is. And so, yeah, that is, in a nutshell, that is really how you can utilize ChurchTrac to be able to track your attendance, to be able to create these registrations, have people register for these events, and do all of that in the same software that you're already doing everything else for your
Just
church.
makes it so simple.
Yeah.
I want to remind everybody we have that YouTube channel. I know I'm sounding like a broken record, so definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel. Join our Facebook group. I'm dropping the links into the chat one last time just to make sure you all have that. I'll also drop a link to our support ticket page. That way, if you have any questions that you think of, if you're like me, truly, I'm the kind of person that I'll be asked, like, do you have any questions? And I'm like, no, I'm good. I get it. And then, 5 minutes after it's over, I'll think of a couple questions I wished I'd asked. Reach out to our support team. They're amazing. Whether you're sending a ticket, they get back really fast, or you need a phone call, you can schedule that, and they'll answer all the questions that you have about the event screen, about anything with ChurchTrac. If you need recommendations for where to eat for dinner, we'll do some Googling. We'll help you out no matter what questions that you have. I hope you all got something out of this and learned something new about the event screen and can really take this to the next level and get the most out of this feature and other features in ChurchTrac. Thanks for attending and thanks for watching. I hope you have a blessed day.
See ya.